Hello and welcome to part 3 of our videos on the joints. We're going to be looking at synovial joints in this video, and we're going to be looking at their actual actions, which is why I have this very scary front-facing camera on right now. So, you are going to be able to explain what the actions and the movements of these angular joints are. So, what the heck is an action? Well, an action is just what the joint does. So, if I have my elbow right here, this action, flexing, is, see it's getting smaller and larger, that is the action. So it can flex and it can extend. So we're going to be looking at those movements in this video, and I'm going to be demonstrating them, which is, again, why this very scary camera showing you our unfinished basement. And this is important when we get to the muscle chapter, because I'll be telling you what the muscles do. I'll say flex or extend, abduct or adduct, and you have to actually be able to understand what those movements are. So our first two movements are gliding and rotational. What does glide mean to you? Well, gliding means two things are just sliding past each other like this. And you have this in the bones in your hand. They glide past each other. You also have it where the scapula meets the acromial end of the clavicle. You have two ends like this. They can go like this, or they could go like this. Hopefully not that extreme. So that's a gliding action where you have two things sliding past each other. So gliding, two bones slide back and forth. It occurs in planar joints, so we'll learn about a planar joint in our next video. Rotational. What does rotational sound like? Something rotates. And you have a pivoting action. So shaking your head no, like this, allows for a pivoting action. Do you remember what two bones allow you to do that? It's the dens of the axis going up into the atlas. So we have the axis right here. There's the dens. And here is the atlas without its body, because it ain't got no body. So the atlas is going to fit nicely on the dens, and you could shake your head no. That's a pivoting joint. I actually brought this right here to show you a pivoting joint. So if you look at the radius, which is this bone, and the ulna, you'll actually have a pivoting action of the radius around the ulna. So see, we have the head of the ulna right there. And we have the radius with the ulnar process. So this is a pivoting action. You have one bone pivoting around the other. We have that at this end too, the proximal end, but you can't see it because of this ligament, and I am too chicken to actually undo that ligament so you can see it. So the two places we have our rotational movement are the atlas and axis, where you could shake your head no, and rotating the forearm, you have it at both ends. So basically both the ulnar notch and the radial notch. The third type of motion is angular. You are moving something to either increase an angle or decrease an angle. And that's actually why I'm using the scary front-facing camera. So angular motion, you're increasing or decreasing the angle between two bones. So if we have one bone like this and one bone like this, we have an angle between the two. So going back to my elbow, we have our trochleella, there's the trochleella, and we have the ulna, and this is about a 180 degree angle right now. Now it is a 90 degree angle. Now it's about a 15 degree angle. So this is what I mean by angular. The motion is changing the degrees of the angle of the joint. We're going to be looking at 3 examples. Flexing and extending. What do those mean? I thought all your muscles flexed. Well, we'll find out. Abduction and adduction, and then circumduction. Oh, that's the hokey pokey motion. Flexion and extension, you have a joint like this. That's 180 degrees. Now it has been reduced to 90 degrees. That is flexing. I'm going back out to 180 degrees. That is extension. So you make the angle smaller. That is flexing. So your fingers, that is 180 degrees, that is 90 degrees. So flexing, you make the angle smaller. So in our elbow model, 180 degrees, when I flex, that angle is getting smaller. Extension is the exact opposite. Extension, you are making the angle larger. You are increasing the angle. So here, I have my arms, flex, touchdown. I'm extending this arm. I am making this angle from 90 degrees to 180. I have my fingers. They are flexed. I am extending all 4 of my fingers. Like so. Flexing, you're making it smaller. Extension, you're making it larger. Now, hyperextension. You can hyperextend some joints. This is flex. This is extend. I could actually pull my hand all the way back like this. That has gone past 180 degrees. 180, 90, that is 270. That is hyperextension. So 180 degrees, 270 degrees, hyperextension. My neck, flexing my neck, extending my neck, hyperextending my neck. So hyperextension, you go past the 180 degree mark. So our formal definition of flex is you reduce the angle from 180 to 90, or you're basically making the angle smaller. So here, flexing would be going this direction on the arm, this direction on the hand. Now I want to point out, see the knee joint right here? That is extended. To flex it, that's 90 degrees, your lower leg goes posteriorly. Flexing, the arm anterior, leg is posterior. So on our leg model, if I were to actually flex it, here's extended. Flexing, I am reducing the angle. So that's 90 degrees, 180 degrees. 90 degrees, 180 degrees. So a lot of students get that confused on the test because they're like, oh, it's extension because it's going backwards. No, flexing, you're reducing the angle. Extension, you're increasing the angle. You're going from 90 back towards 180. And to hyperextend, you're going past 180. So on the quiz, I'm going to ask you these 3 terms, and you have to define it for me. So I'm going to say the next 2 very slowly. Abduction and adduction. They differ by 1 letter. And I used to go to a trainer, and he would actually say abduction and adduction. He got that from his kinesiology teachers, and it really makes it clear. So I'm going to be using abduction and adduction. It's really abduct and adduct. So what does abduct mean? It means you take it away. What does add look like? Add starts out as addition, A-D-D. So that is how I tell these 2 terms apart. So what are these terms? When you abduct, you're going away from the midline. So my arms are going up. That is abduction. To adduct, you're going to add to the midline. So my arms are going back down. Abduction, adduction. In class, I usually do jumping jacks, but I'm probably going to hit this door or my head on the ceiling. So let's do some Star Trek. Live long and prosper. That is abduction. I just went away from the midline. Oops, I just adducted. I went back to the midline. Abduction, you go away from the midline. Adduction, you go back towards. I can actually do this with my wrist. If I move my wrist inwards, which hurts, that would technically be abduction because I'm moving towards my midline. And this would technically be adduction because I'm moving away from my midline. My big problem there is I'm not in an anatomical position, so this is abduction, moving towards the midline, and this is adduction. Fun fact, when you close your eyes, you're actually adducting your eyes. When you open them, you're abducting. So, abduction, we have our midline right there, and you move away from it. So, abduction, you move away from the midline. Adduction, you're already out, you're moving back towards the midline. It could be your arms, it could be your wrists, it could be your fingers. Circumduction is 360 degree motion, and it's usually involving all 4 of the previous motions. It gets its own name. It's usually at ball and socket joints, but it could also be at saddle joints like your thumb playing video games. Or it could be a condylar joint, like your wrist. So see, I'm moving my wrist 360 degrees. Well, I already told you, flex, extend, hyperextend. A deduct, a abduct. So actually, I am doing all of those motions to rotate my wrist. So when you see the muscle as it circumducts this joint, that means it just helps it go in a circle, or helps with circumduction. Now we have some special motion. I'm going to say them first to you and see if they mean anything to you. Pronation and supination. I've heard about people pronating their feet while running, which is actually incorrect, but they still use it anyways. So it has to do with joints. Depression and elevation. What's elevation? Elevate, you go up. Depression, you're sad, you're drooping your shoulders, you go down. So most people get that one. Inversion and eversion. What does inversion look like? In, so something must be going inwards. Eversion is going to be that you're trying to get away from it. Dorsi and plantar flexion. Where's your plantar region? Plantar fasciitis is the bottom of the foot, so somehow you flex the bottom of your foot arch, and dorsi must be the opposite. And then protraction and retraction. What do you do when you're retracting something? You're taking it away. So protraction must be sticking it out then. So pronation and supination happens in your lower arm. Despite what all the running shops say, it's not actually happening in your lower leg. That's actually inversion and eversion. They use pronation anyways. So see how my hand is facing downwards? I can't carry something very well. If I try to carry something, it's going to drop. Now, I'm going to rotate it so my palm is facing upwards. I can now carry something, such as that bone or a bowl of soup. So that's supination. You move your hand from palm down, DJ position, to hand up so you could carry some soup. That is supination. Pronation is the opposite. You're moving your hand from facing up to facing down. That's why you cannot pronate your feet. You do not have this range of motion in your foot. Supination, forearm rotates laterally, palm faces anteriorly at the end. So that would be facing forward. Pronation, your thumb is going medial, your fingers are going down. So your palm ends up facing downwards. So depression and elevation. Depression, you are moving downwards. You can depress your jaw, depress your shoulders. People that are depressed have slouching shoulders. Elevation, you're lifting up. So this is elevating my shoulders. Closing your mouth is elevating your jaw. Now we have inversion and eversion. Inversion is moving your toe towards the midline, inwards. So people that apparently have pronation problems running, they actually have an inversion problem. But for some reason, all the running shops call it pronation. All the running magazines call it pronation. I can't win, can I? Eversion is going the opposite direction. You are moving outwards. So, and don't confuse it with aversion, which is you're afraid of something, but you can sort of think about aversion. I'm scared of this midline, so I'm moving outwards. So inversion and eversion. Inversion, you are rotating your big toe inwards. Eversion, pinky toe outwards. Inversion, sole medially. Eversion, sole laterally. So the last pair is plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. This is your dorsal region right here, and your plantar region is this part of your foot. And in both of them, you are making the angle smaller in that region. That's why they both have flexion. Dorsiflexion, you're moving your toes towards your shin. So this is the tibia. You're moving your toes towards the shin bone. For plantar flexion, you're pointing your toes away. If you watch Dancing with the Stars or any of those other dancing shows, you'll notice that the dancers are all plantar flexing their foot like this. So usually in class I do a pirouette. I will hit something where I'm doing this recording, so I won't show you my horrible pirouette. So dorsiflexion, you're moving that way. Plantar flexion, you are pointing your toes. See here, plantar flexion, he's moving toes that way, dorsal